Bro, so listen, this week the camera world has been going crazy, right? And we're moving more into this space, and so we're starting to like pay attention to these
Right.
conversations. And it's super interesting to hear folks talk about the new Lumix S12, which is a freaking sweet camera,
hmm
and it has some amazing specs. Um, and I think there's like a couple of them, like Open Gate, that are really catching everybody's attention. But
Sure.
as far as like the frame rates and stuff like that is very similar to other things that are out. It's just the fact that it's in that body at that price around what I think is $3,100 to $3,500. I think it's somewhere in there. So it's competing
Yeah.
directly with Sony FX3 in that price range. And
hmm
it's just super crazy to see everyone on YouTube talking about are they switching from Sony and all of those things. So I wanted to, I mean, because you're in the middle of looking at, your
Yeah.
camera setup and your changes, right? And so tell me a little bit about, what is your response to that, man? What are you thinking about all of the
It's
stuff people are saying?
okay. It's interesting because as I start looking at what is next for upgrading my camera system, these cameras kind of hit that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say the $2,500 version, and I can't remember the new model number off the top of my head. That version is not on my consideration list. Um,
S12E.
Yeah, yeah, the S12E. And E series, if anything, typically doesn't hit the standard that I prefer if I'm going to
Right.
spend that kind of money to upgrade. So I'd be looking at the $3,100. Is it? Oh my God, what's the model
S12.
number?
S12.
That's
Yeah,
right,
they
the
all
S1
suck.
two.
Names suck.
So every camera name sucks, and we already talked about that last time. But anyways, so I'm trying to get past the initial batch of. Oh my God. Hold on. This Obsbot camera does that every time it zooms in on me. I'm trying to get past that initial batch of I'm leaving Sony for Panasonic. Okay, no, you're
Right.
not. You're $10,000 deep in glass. Like
Right,
you're
right,
not.
right.
You
Not
got
going
too
nowhere.
many lenses to consider
Right.
actually leaving, and so and then you have the other videos that say why I'm not going to consider this camera. So if I look at it from a pure specs perspective, a lot of exciting stuff.
Oh yeah,
I don't think
absolutely.
that the thing is, none of it's groundbreaking. It's just groundbreaking for Panasonic. And so
Yeah.
I think is kind of the big thing that I take away from it. Now, I will say the
Let me
articulating
bring it up.
screen, that is a standard I want to see in the camera world. The fact that that thing can flip out and face you, it can go up and down like it's a full arm.
Yep.
That's
That's
revolutionary.
solid. That's solid. Yeah.
Really excited about that. The recording quality is huge for me. The reason I don't want the E version is because at $2,500, I don't want cropped 4K 120. I think, you know, I think we're at an age of technology now where like it shouldn't be cropped.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. But that's just kind of my initial
Mm-hmm.
thoughts as far as the design of the camera, the functionality of it, the fact that it goes up to I think 5.9K 60 frames a second. I mean, that's beautiful. The
That's crazy.
autofocus looks really really good.
Yep.
Anyways, it does everything right. It really does.
I, yeah, I agree with you. I think first I'll cover the price, right? So you got the S12E, right? The Essentials version. And I think that camera is geared for folks that are maybe getting their first camera or maybe
Mm-hmm.
getting their first upgraded camera. Imagine somebody
It's
coming
a
from
heck of a
like,
first camera.
I mean, but my first camera was a Fuji X-T3 at the time, and it was one of the best in the market in the mid level area, right? And so
Yeah.
so I'm giving like my journey, right? And so if you're coming from a Canon M50 II, which was kind of like that standard YouTube starter package camera a couple of years ago, and now you're like, I need some serious frame rates, I need some serious, um, you know, creation ability, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
at $2,400 or whatever that is for the S12E isn't bad of a jump,
Yeah.
right? To go
Right.
from like $1,000 to that, it's like that next level up where I'm not completely 100% committed, but I've outgrown what I have. And at that point, you may not know that you need all of those frame rates and things like that. You just want a camera that's going to last you that next 3 to 4 years of time investment, right?
Well, and people in the Lumix world, they get like my buddy in Hawaii. He's Lumix, and like once they're Lumix, they are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think it happens with every major camera brand, but like if you can future proof yourself early, I think you're in a
Yeah.
good spot.
Yeah. And I think so that's my take on this whole thing. Like the Lumix camera, if you look at it spec by spec, and I got it up over here, and that's why I keep looking over here, it's a great camera. is a phenomenal camera. It has the L mount, right? So that means you the L mount alliance, and so you got a lot of options for lenses and things like that from Sigma and what have you. But the kind of where I'm like on the fence is it enough to switch from Sony to Lumix? You know what I mean? And
What's the model number one more time so I can bring up the
S12,
specs?
S12.
That's right.
Yep, S12. And I'll
There it is.
Yeah.
Lumix S12. So this is what's interesting because I am actively looking at switching to Sony from Canon, as you know, because I'm only, man, when Allo was saying he's $80,000 deep into his ecosystem, I was like, geez, like that's
like a man can't leave anything. The man is there,
right? And so for me, I'm only $3,000 deep because I've got the two R8s and some older Canon body styles. And so okay, so you're comparing it against the FX3.
Only because this is the one that everybody's talking about. Like this is the YouTube argument right now. It's this versus the FX3, right? Is it the FX3 killer, right? That's
the
tagline.
FX3 came out in 2021, so it should kill it.
That's the part that people aren't saying.
Yeah, the technology's older.
That's the part that people aren't saying, and that's the part where I'm like, yeah, I definitely agree that the camera is sweet, right?
Yeah.
I definitely agree it has some really sweet features, but it's new, and the FX3 has been out for a while, right? And so to say that Sony is, Sony's sitting on their laurels and blah, 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 it took until 2025 for someone else to come up with something that could beat it. So it's not that they're sitting on their laurels, it's that there was no reason for them to update until this point. It's kind of like you and my discussion, the argument about the Pocket 3, right? The only reason they will come out with another one is a pro version, but there's no other small camera that's doing what the Pocket 3 can do right now, right? And so on playing devil's advocate to my own argument, there's no reason for them to go up unless there's another pro or there's another player on the market that beats them.
Okay, right? I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, I spoke to a Sony rep recently about a Mark II of the FX3. He said a lot of what you just said on why they're not considering that, because at that price point, what you would need to make it a Mark II version of the FX3, you can't fit it into that price point. You just can't. And that's like, it's kind of got like golden handcuffs on because of what it gives you for that price. And if you drop that thing any cheaper, then you start ruining some of their other body styles, like the oh my God. The S13 or whatever the hell it is, I always forget their model.
That's one too.
Whatever. No, I'm talking about the Sony's 7S3 or whatever it is.
EZV-E1 is the next one with that sensor.
Right. So even though this is a cinema camera, so it's obviously much different, you have it start competing because you're dropping the price on it to get ready for the Mark II. And in the current tariff situation, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
I mean, if the FX, like, I think they're going to be releasing a updated there's been rumors of a second FX3 coming this year. And that's why we're even talking about this right here. But I have clarification on that. It's a software update. It's not a change in anything else. So it's not a Mark II.
I don't know. Are you supposed to share that?
I didn't sign anything, so
the package hasn't arrived either. But
well, and I'm not looking at this one. So, anyways,
but no, the interesting thing, not to cut you off on that, is that you mentioned something that Reth, who I believe works at Sony, that was in the comment section yesterday of Brandon Washington's show, Cam Mackey's show.
Yeah,
Brandon Cam, one of them. But he mentioned Sony has way more lineups than these other companies, right? And so you have the vlog series, you have your cinema series, and then you have like the Alpha 8 series, then you have the 6400 series, right? And so you have all of these different lineups that Sony has to consider when they make these type of decisions. Whereas Lumix, a lot of people that are on this camera aren't really aware of like how deep or narrow their product lines are. Same thing with Canon, right? Canon has a lot of different lineups as well, but Sony has a plethora of lineups, and it's almost like you have your hybrid cameras, you have your photo cameras and like the A9, and then you have like your video-centric cameras, right? Which is the 7S3 and the EV1 and the FX3.
That right there is what changes it for me, because Sony is the only brand that is actively going down the path of let's create less hybrid-focused cameras and have good video cameras. Because, I mean, sure, hybrid's great. I love I love the fact that my R8s can take great pictures. You know how often I take a great picture with it? Never. And so, Anyways.
And before there's another topic that I want to discuss on this that Paul Feinberg mentioned on his video today. The S12 shoots in 8-bit, or it's 10-bit, but it's 420, not 422 like the FX3, which that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people.
Right.
But the people that are discussing this, it should mean a lot to them, because you're talking about the amount of color space, right, or whatever in the shot, right?
Right.
And granted, don't get me wrong, a lot of that stuff comes down to formulas and different stuff like that behind the scenes and how the picture comes out. But it's one thing that they used to talk about all the time that Paul mentioned in his video was that, oh, I want 422. I want 422. It's the same thing with people yelling, I want open gate nowadays, right?
Right.
So Sony gave you 422 with this FX3, and the S12 doesn't have it. And so it's one of those things where if you talk about all the goods, you have to cover it all, right? So that people can make their educated decisions. And that's not important to everybody. It really isn't. But it is another deciding factor, right? And so I'm not one or the other. I have 3 Sony bodies. My entire kit right now is Sony. I'm open to trying, especially Blackmagic, especially Lumix, because of what they're doing right now.
Ooh.
But I think when you have these conversations, like I think all of that context needs to be there. So that people can understand. I think people really need to emphasize that the FX3 is an old camera.
Yeah, for sure.
They have to emphasize that.
I don't agree that it's a fair comparison, so I'm right there with you on that. I think what my favorite thing about this camera is Panasonic did two things, or they did both things. They fixed everything except for internal ND filters that people wanted on the Lumix S1. That was the one thing that, like, my buddy was like, man, if it just had internal ND filters, like, it's not going to stop him from buying it. But he's like, that's the one thing, if it had that, it'd be more expensive. But other than that, they improved what they listened to their audience, and then they also made it more friendly for the average person as well, because now they have like a dedicated webcam mode. And as you know, as a Canon user, how much that pisses me off that I have to pay for resolution to use it as a webcam on Canon cameras. And Lumix is like, here you go, 5.9K 30 frames a second on or whatever it is, so it's like, I like the fact that they attacked a very, very broad audience. And I think this is going to be a camera that's future-proof for a while. Because honestly, it's a long time before the average device can catch up to 5.9K, because most people viewing things on their phone can't even see 4K, right?
Can't even see 4K, agreed.
As a product videographer with controlled lighting, so when you talk about like rolling shutter and you talk about some of the things that it does with stabilization, that doesn't bother me at all, because I either have a very still talking head or I have it on a slider and it's got real slow cinematic shots. So for me, this camera looks like a legitimate upgrade,
Yeah. And you bring up some good points, right? I think that, so the Lumix camera, the S12, right? It's, when you talk about the content creation space in YouTube and things like that, most people are going to watch it on their smaller devices.
Right.
But some of the folks that are talking about this camera, like Cam Mackey, are full-on filmmakers, right? And so, like, he's discussing it from like a 16:9 full screen, type use case.
Yeah.
And that's where the argument gets more nuanced and more niche. Whether or not this camera beats out like something like the FX3. And the only reason I would compare it to the FX3 is because people are comparing, like, the biggest argument right now is this a Sony killer? And I don't think that camera can beat the Sony like outright. I think it has better use cases, and I think it's a value thing. I think it's the amount of things that come in that camera for the price is why they're saying it's an FX3 beater, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, like, those larger megapixels allow for better shot, right? The 12 megapixels versus the, 24? It's, 24? Yeah. Megapixels on this one. Right? Let me make sure, because, people jump on you about this stuff. It's 26.8 megapixels. So at the end of the day, like, those 12 megapixels are going to give you a cleaner shot with less noise and stuff like that, and light in low light circumstances. But it is getting closer. Like, they're showing a lot of video where that is getting closer. and it's not as bad as some of the other cameras that are out right now trying to compete with that FX3.
Right.
And so that's why people are saying like you're getting more with 5.9 and all that different stuff, but you're still not getting as clean of a look.
Right.
But you are getting a higher resolution, so it kind of even, you can play with it, you can manipulate it and stuff like that. And they're saying that they like the color coming out of this camera more so than, we all know that Sony typically stays closer to clinical colors if that's a real use, right? Even their televisions are like that. They're more
a little colder and stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they like the vibrance more that's coming out of this Lumix camera. And again, like those are nuances, right? Those are those are personal, things that people like over the other.
Let me get your thoughts on. Okay, so we got the Lumix S12. That's the new release coming up. I'm looking on B&H Photo right now and seeing how it compares to the S1R2, which has already been out, and it's only $100 difference. Let me get your thoughts on those two cameras and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, let me go bring it up because that one I'm not. Let me see.
I'll start reading that one. While you look at it, the spec 44.3 megapixel CMOS sensor, 8K 30, 4K 120, 10-bit video recording, 6.4K open gate shooting. Like obviously older technology, which I know is a big deal in the Panasonic world, right? But
the S1R2 is, I believe, stronger than this one, than the S12.
But for $100 difference.
See, and that's the interesting thing about cameras, right? We talk about megapixels. This one's 44, the other one's 28, right?
Yeah.
There's different ways you can go with that. As I've said several times, like when it comes to video, the less megapixels, the better the video usually, right? That's why you can look at the Sony A7C II and the Sony A7CR. Sony A7CR has that 60 megapixels or something like that, and the A7C II has 33. But the A7C II does better video than the A7CR does.
Okay.
Photos by far, because especially when you're blowing up a photo, the more megapixels you have, the more data for that photo, so that when you expand it, you have more clarity in that picture.
Right.
And so that's let me take a look at.
It's just for $100 difference. It's a really interesting, like, justification on why you would go with the new one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, you got to really like that articulating screen, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know the difference between the two because I never really looked at the S1R because I'm not a Lumix person, and I haven't been interested in a Lumix, until these two cameras came up. Mm-hmm. Now the first one was like, oh dang, they got a new camera and they got some sweet specs, but it wasn't enough to like pay attention to it because in the grand scheme of things, like we've talked about with how many lenses I have for the Sony system, or just in general, right? The ability to get a lens from Sigma, Meiki, whoever. I didn't pay much attention to it because the L mount isn't as it is nice, but it's not as open as the Sony mount, the E mount. And so it wasn't until this camera where it's like, okay, now they're back to back with cameras, and there's a rumored next camera coming out, a cinema camera. Right. And so now it's like, okay, it's time to pay attention to it a little bit as we get ready to make that next decision on what's the next, camera system that you're going to use. So I really don't know much about the S1R2.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. I think this is the first time with this S12 being released that we can consider, like, it's always been Sony versus Canon, and hey, there's Lumix back there. I think this is the first time where it's like a three-way competition. And then
don't forget about Nikon, though. Nikon, they're not as.
Who do you know using a Nikon?
A lot of photographers use Nikon because of the colors,
right? But outside of that,
space, yeah,
right, for like video and hybrid cameras. Well, and like what's really going to be interesting is to see when DJI releases that mirrorless camera.
If they release it. You think they're going to release it? Do you think it's going to be in the States? They didn't send the Mav 4 over here.
Yeah, that's a little weird. You think that's a tariff issue?
I don't know what it is, man. To be honest, like there could be so many different reasons they didn't send that Mav 4 over here. I mean, it could be you don't want us in your country type deal, but we're going to send it to everybody else. It could be the tariffs. I mean, they stopped supporting the geo no fly zone areas and and
that was like almost a year ago at this point.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And so it could be any of those things. It could be You know, if people want it, they're going to have to come out and get it, but they're not honoring the warranty if you go across the border and pick it up and bring it back, you know, stuff like that. Um, there's a lot of
That's
speculation on that, but
I hold on, wait, I didn't know that. They're not honoring the warranty if you bring it back across
well,
into the United
technically, if you
States.
bring it across the border, it's smuggled good, right? Like if they don't sell it there.
Wow, dude,
And so,
that's like
so
in Skyrim where you can't sell stolen
skooma,
goods.
skooma, so
Yeah, you
skooma,
can't
skooma.
sell any of the stolen stuff. Wow. Okay.
But I mean, but legally it makes sense, right? Because we don't sell it in your country, and you go get it,
Mhm.
and you bring it across that border. That is a smuggled good, technically, right? And so, like
Just
them
like cheese
saying,
from France.
them, I'm not familiar with that, but them saying that they would cover that warranty, knowing that you got it illegally, right, would kind of be like them practicing. So
Yeah,
who knows what happens until somebody actually has that situation? They reach out and say, "What can you do?"
that's really interesting. Okay, so at the end of the day, I like DJI jumping into the mirrorless market. Just the fact that it's even, I think it's more than rumors. I really do. I've seen some mock-ups of it. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's something that could potentially happen. And honestly, if they join, they have some big, like, I wouldn't even say they have big expectations because, like, what would you want out of a first gen DJI mirrorless camera? Like, would you want it to be entry level, or are they trying to convert their action camera audience? Like, I don't know,
They
but
they they have some big expectations because it's been rumored for so long, and based on what they did with the Pocket 3, based on the camera quality from some of the drones, um, and just because it's just pure like no one actually knowing what it's going to be or what it could be, the expectations if they don't like land above the like these two cameras here, the S1R2 and S12, and you know if they don't land in between there and like the Alpha A1 or something like that, people are going to see it as a bust just because there's so much energy around it.
see, I think I look at it differently because they've never stepped into the realm of sensor sizes this big, and I
Hmm.
don't like. I don't. I'm not going to
Well,
give
they
them
have
an
the
out.
they have the 4D, right? And so like I mean they have technology
That's a fair
around that.
point. That's a
They,
fair point.
you know,
Yeah,
and that's why fairly or
I
unfairly,
forgot
right?
about that. Yeah.
Fairly or not fair or you know indifferent, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
people are going to speculate, and because people have had time to sit back and kind of come up with their own thoughts of what it's going to be,
Yeah.
you know, they have to come out the gate swinging. Otherwise, you know, their first camera could be like a detriment if it's not super solid, unless it comes out with like FX30 specs, but you know, ZVE10 Mark II price. You know, like say for instance, they give you everything in the FX30, but they give it to you for $1,000. Then people will be like, "It's not what we thought it was going to be, but that price is crazy. Like it's still a good
Yeah.
buy, right?" So now,
So
yeah,
So to your point about can we get it into the U.S. That's actually a really good point because I'm seeing right now that there's a lot of Huawei attached to it, and if it's got Huawei anywhere near that camera, it's not coming here, which is a
mm-hmm,
real bummer. Because I would love to have the DJI ecosystem with a mirrorless camera. I mean, that's one of the
mm-hmm,
reasons I want to go Sony is because of the ecosystem. But like,
mm-hmm,
imagine like the DJI mic system with a mirrorless camera,
yeah,
and just like what you could do with that, and then I mean, they could start building an Apple type system. Not that
yeah.
ecosystem. Not that I want them to, because that can be a little limiting as a Canon user. I know what
Mm,
that's like, and
I
so,
mean,
anyways,
Canon though.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
this is a problem for me when I talk about switching, and I don't want to stick on cameras too much because I know that people like to hear us talk about a lot of different things. But
mm-hmm,
like, I think I made a mistake buying two R8s because they're both really good cameras. Well, I mean, obviously the exact same camera. It's a really good camera,
yeah,
and for me to like the whole reason I bought two of the same body style is because I wanted to be able to leave one as my talking head and get good quality, and then also be able to have one that's ready for B-roll or a second
yeah,
shot and match the quality. And so for me to look at another ecosystem, it's like I want. I keep feeling like I need to have the nicer camera as my talking head, but I need that camera for B-roll. So like
mm-hmm,
which one, so like as I'm looking at Sony, I'm going to be testing out the ZVE1 pretty soon. I think the 4K 120 on that obviously going to be a great B-roll cam. Also
mm-hmm.
want it for talking head potentially. So
See,
it's
but
like
the crazy thing about what you're doing there, A7S3 and the ZVE1 is the exact same camera,
right.
and that ZVE1 is going to be better for product potentially because of the
It's a
product.
lighter. There's no
It's lighter. There's no
viewfinder.
EVF. But also there's actual built-in features, functions that is specifically for product, right? So like the product display where you put it up and you don't have to cover your eyes and stuff like that and things like that. That's all built into that camera because that camera is built for content creators, whereas the Sony a7S III was built for, it was basically like the first affordable cinema camera because of the specs, even though it wasn't labeled a cinema camera. You know what I mean? And so that's why they had to come out with the FX3 because, and people were like, why are they using the same sensor and things like that? And it's because the FX3 was their actual cinema camera in that price range.
Once you've seen the ZV-E1 up close, you understand why they use the same sensor because the use case is vastly different. It is such a
different,
like videography based content creator friendly camera. But why would I just buy 2 of those instead of, you know what I mean? So anyways, like we could talk about camera stuff all day long. I know we got more stuff. We are because we're going to be doing a lot of content stuff this year, but I know we also want to talk about a couple other things going on in the world. And I know you had a list of stuff to cover as well.
My main thing was I wanted to definitely talk about the S1 too. Just the whole thought process that everybody's kind of pushing right now on the switch over to Lumix. I don't think everyone's pushing that agenda, so to speak. It's not really an agenda. I don't think everybody's saying that. I think that a lot of people are just saying it's finally a camera worth looking at outside of the Sony Canon
finally relevant
race. You know what I mean? It'd be like if a new player showed up in the Xbox PlayStation realm. You know what I mean? It was like there's finally something good enough to challenge the two main powers in the gaming space, right? Everybody's gonna talk about it. You know, should you start using this more than Sony, more than Xbox, etc.
Sony and Canon have stayed on top so long because their entry point into this ecosystem is so user friendly.
Yeah,
Canon's color science and menu system unbeatable. Although Sony's is looking really good, but then you have Sony's autofocus. I know what I wanted to
talk about.
Well, hold on. I was going to say, and then Sony's autofocus and just how user friendly getting into those ecosystems is. You know, like Panasonic doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what were we going to talk about?
It was still Canon.
Dude, I feel like I've become such a Canon hater, and those are the cameras that I use.
Those are the cameras, and they look good too.
Before NAB, I was all Canon, and you kept talking to me about Sony, and I'm like, dude, I'm not like. There's no reason for me to switch.
I don't know why you don't listen to me ahead of time. I don't know why. It's like talking to my kids. It's like. Somebody else can come say it and they like, yeah, that's right. And Dad been saying it the whole time. I'm not saying that's our relationship, but I'm just saying like that's what I felt like. You had to go sit in front of Sony reps for them to tell you the exact same thing that I was telling you. Literally word for word.
You're right, but this isn't the first time. We have people that comment on our stuff all the time who defend their purchases, right? So it's just a natural instinct. Like, no,
I talked about that in my latest video. Go watch. Plug.
That's why I mentioned it. Go watch. What's your channel name now?
It's Cozy Tech Reviews for another day. It'll be Christopher Cozy Tech and Gear tomorrow.
And then the following day.
And then the following day.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that actually. Branding for. Let me get this camera down a little bit. There we go.
Put the L back up.
Branding for our channels, because NAB did such a big change for us wanting to focus on content creation. I think it's interesting because I think you and I are starting to split apart a little bit in how we want to focus our channels, because you found your passion with content gear, right?
Yeah
And I have a passion like that too, but I don't have a natural understanding of the space to talk about it like you do, and I still have such a desire to find the weirdest, craziest tech and bring it to the channel. So it's like you're starting to look at rebranding yourself with your name, which in the camera space goes a long way. People get to know, like whenever we were at NAB, you were like, oh, that's Kofi and that's Tamara. And like you knew people's names. And I don't know if I'm ever going to hit that, you know? First off, my last name will get censored on most platforms. I can't help that, right? Like even when I'm doing creative player in Madden.
I mean, if you say the whole thing, it'll be fine, right?
Right, but I can't. There's a lot of video games where I can't even have my last name in it because like it'll censor it, and I'm like, come on, man.
What about the people named Richard that go by that first half of your name?
They suffer just like I do. But anyways, so I'm going to keep mine as Freaky Tech Reviews just because...
Even though it always throws people for a loop.
Freaky Tech Reviews?
Yeah.
Oh, when they don't know the context behind it?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I should probably explain. Have I explained that on this podcast
I
before?
don't know. Go ahead.
If you're a follower of this podcast and you hear the same stories over and over,
and TikTok.
sorry. And well, TikTok's new. They haven't heard this before.
They haven't heard it before.
Yeah,
okay.
It's only my 4th time going live here. So,
Okay.
Context behind it: started a channel in 2020 called Freaky Tall Reviews because I'm 6'10", and it just made sense. All right, like I'm freakishly tall, and then I'm reviewing products for tall people. Started to realize I have a serious passion for tech. And so I started Freaky Tech Reviews as a playlist on that channel. And then once I met you, and you already had a tech channel, I was like, I think I want to do this full time. And I created a sister channel called Freaky Tech Reviews. And it was always the little brother to Freaky Tall Reviews. Well, Freaky Tech Reviews has beaten the absolute shit out of Freaky Tall Reviews. And it's crazy. It is the future. And so now people are like, I thought you were going to be reviewing like sex toys and stuff. I'm like, no, dude. Like it's, I get that all the time. Like, what's freaky about your channel? I thought it was going to be weird stuff. And I'm like, I mean, it is, but not in the way that you think it is. So I don't want to rebrand because I like the name. I think it stands out. But at the same time, like maybe I'll put - Corey D.
That makes it better. That makes it so much better. Corey D. Pause. But does it ever make you guess, like when the people come there and they're upset that they didn't see what they thought it was going to be, why they're saying it out loud?
Like maybe like when they're upset that.
So like the person said, I thought you were going to be covering freaky stuff like sex toys and stuff. Oh, this is just a regular tech channel.
Does he ever give me thoughts about covering that
like,
stuff?
Okay, what did you that never crosses your mind to be like, okay.
Like all of a sudden start reviewing like sex toys and stuff?
No,
Oh.
negative.
Okay, I'm like, what are you saying?
Negative. Just the fact that they were upset that they showed up to your channel and thought they were going to see that, and now they're not seeing that. And they thought that enough to mention it to you. Oh, I thought you were going to be covering it, so that's why I clicked.
If you're asking,
they're upset. They're just seeing a keyboard.
It kind of makes me laugh, and I'm like, it hurts my retention, no doubt, because they click on, videos thinking one thing and then it's not that, so they click off.
They leave a comment though, so there's engagement.
And it does help. Positive or negative, even a downvote, that's engagement, and that counts. So now it's just it's interesting, man. People are strange.
So listen, the last thing I wanted to talk about this was Canon PowerShot V1, right? We saw that at NAB.
Yeah, we did. We saw a lot of that.
It's a point and shoot fixed lens camera with a wide angle to basically like a medium zoom range. I think it's what was it, 16 to 60 or something like that, whatever it is. I had been waiting for somebody like Maddie or Peter to cover it. Maddie covered it, and I think his video came out yesterday.
Did Peter McKinnon not cover it? I thought he did.
I think he did, but I didn't watch it because Peter's real commercial right now. Maddie's kind of like still in his film. Peter on YouTube is real commercial right now.
I don't want to say Peter McKinnon sold out, but
I think he's a Canon shooter. He's not interested in looking at anything else because YouTube isn't his thing.
So when you see him review something like that, a lot of money went into that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Why would Peter cover a $600 camera?
Right.
It doesn't make sense
now, man.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? But so Maddie did it, and I like the first half of Maddie's video where he was being honest, like, where does this camera fit? Because it has to be better than an iPhone, right? And it has to be cheaper and more affordable than a regular mirrorless camera. And then he went into showing the footage, and like at first he was saying things like it has to look better than the iPhone, so he showed some color graded footage and stuff like that. But what lost me was when he got to the footage of the iPhone and he showed that kind of like out of the base camera and not like Black Magic log, graded, because like that was where it was like, man, you tried to make it look like this thing is better than the iPhone, and you did it by using the base camera versus what you would normally do, which is the Black Magic camera app with the iPhone. And so that's where I was like, man, see, that's where the money thing comes into it.
If you want good quality out of your iPhone, you haven't seen it until you've done it with the Black Magic app. I mean, I'm blown away by that, and I just discovered that through you a month ago. So I haven't watched his review on it, but I'm looking at the specs on it right now, and I'm like, there's not a reason to buy this. It's the same price as an iPhone. It has way less functionality. You have one lens, which is 16 to 50 millimeters, 2.8 to 4.5, which is not bad. But like this, to me, I don't know if cash grab is the right like
Yeah,
terminology. I
yeah,
think anyone that buys this that wants to take content creation seriously is going to have buyer's remorse within 12 months.
yeah, yeah. So my opinion on this camera is Canon used all of their Canon shooters to push this out into the market to talk about it, but I don't think it's for content creators.
No. And
I
see that,
think I
yeah.
think it's for my coworkers that really enjoy photography and they don't want to use their phone to do it. They want
It
something in their pocket. It is super small. We held it
doesn't
at
even have an
NAB.
EVF though. So it's
It does.
like,
That one does. The PowerShot V1 does, I
I'm
believe.
looking at it. It doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Uh-uh.
I thought it
Does it
did.
pop, or is it a pop-up EVF?
Maybe it's not. I just thought I remembered.
Pretty
it
sure.
having
I'm looking at it right now and like on
PowerShot V1.
now 22 megapixel 1.4 inch CMOS sensor, not bad. 4K 60 with 1.4
No, there's no
crop.
EVF on this.
Yeah, see, it's a video only camera really. So it's like,
Yeah, that's. I don't listen. I wouldn't pay $900 to take a video of my kid's graduation when I got an iPhone 15 or newer,
100%.
14 or newer.
Well, and like the iPhone can zoom in farther than 50 millimeters. So it's like
It's trash though when it does, but
it still can go a lot farther.
yeah, yeah.
Now, then with image processing getting better and better, and AI and camera phones. I mean, this camera is damn near obsolete upon release, and a year from now, it's just going to be that much worse. You know,
That's why they paid Peter McKinnon $1 million to put it on his channel.
100%, and that hence the sellout. You know, and if there's Peter McKinnon fans watching this, I'm going to get torn up, right? Because you think brand loyalty is big. Content creator loyalty.
Peter McKinnon loyalty is big. Like.
Yeah. And the thing is, Peter McKinnon's the whole reason that I went Canon. So let me go ahead and say that.
Peter McKinnon is the whole reason I started a YouTube channel. So like, I'm not throwing any shade.
Yeah,
or
he was a
like
huge influence to me.
Huge
too.
influence,
He really was
for sure.
You know, the video that's of his that stuck with me the most to this day that I'm still trying to figure out what's going to work best for me is setting up a scene that you can just turn on your lights and press record. He's like that, just lowering the entry barrier to recording content will help you get more out because you're not having to set up your stuff all the time. And I still think of that advice. But looking right quick, all of the comparisons right now for this camera, no one's even reviewing it on its own, barely, it seems like. They're all comparing it to Canon's R50V, which is the superior option simply because you can actually buy lenses.
Yep. And that camera was not good either.
No. And that Canon rep just kept trying to
Think
push
Media
it on
did
us.
Think Media did a video on that camera the other day, and I'm like, man.
Well, here's the thing. That makes sense. Think Media is the whole reason that I bought the M50.
Yeah.
Think Media focuses, and they were a big inspiration for me too. They're great for entry-level cameras. Like entry-level, just getting started.
Except they lie sometimes, man.
Well, back when I was watching them, they didn't have as much incentive to get sales like they do now. It felt a little bit more authentic. But that's back when, like,
I
Sean...
agree, because I did stop watching after a certain amount of time.
You outgrow it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you start seeing it, right? It's almost like we talked about this earlier in the week. Like, do you vet your content creators that you watch and listen to?
Yeah.
And you can tell at this point it's more about the clicks and the affiliate sales and stuff like that. I mean, they still, don't get me wrong, they still do a great job of educating entry-level folks. They do a great job of that. But it's like they push them towards whatever the hot buying product is right now. Like,
so let's talk...
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is kind of a deviation because I was going to say, let's talk about your recent video talking about how you answered another content creator saying that the moment a creator says that they were sent something, they don't believe that review is genuine.
Yeah.
And that gets me a little heated as a reviewer.
Yeah.
And you did a good job of having a level head about your conversation. You complimented her quality, which is solid. You know, for she has a very small channel, and I don't want to name her, but like I watched her video, and the whole time I'm sitting there just like, you're gonna need to delete this video when you start getting followers because you're gonna go back on these words.
I'm gonna name her because I do like her channel. It's Conjured Films, and I think she has a perspective. It's a strong perspective, but it's a perspective early in the game.
Yeah.
Right. And so what makes it valid is that she has a perspective that a lot of people have that aren't in the game. Right. And so it's valid because people think it. Right. And because people think it, that makes it realistic. Right. And so her whole thought process is that sponsored content and or free products means that the creator is lying.
Right.
that they're not sharing a true opinion, right? And so, and a lot of people think that, and
Right.
that's a bias in itself, right? And that's a
Right.
bias that I've combated against, because all of us that have these channels are still consumers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are, like we just literally talked about, Think Media, how they will push to affiliate. And before this subject even came up, I just gave my honest, consistent opinion on this, is that as a viewer, you have to vet the people that you watch and give your time to.
Right.
Not only that, you have to do your own research on top of what you're hearing to validate the claims, right?
100%.
So someone says this thing is sweet and it's amazing, cool, right? That's super cool. But from there, before you go spend that $1,000, go look at the website yourself and validate that, but also listen to a few other opinions, right?
Yep.
Now, going back to her, she mentioned that all free products means there's a bias. All sponsored content means that there's a bias.
Right.
And she said herself that if I was given free products, I would sell out, basically is what she said.
And that's what bothered me the most, is that she said I wouldn't have a strong I'm trying to think of the best way to say this.
What's going on, Corey?
I don't know. This OBSBot camera has a mind of its own, bro. I got to get rid of it.
Man got programmed moves.
TikTok didn't see this. I'm live on TikTok right now. I didn't realize my phone was in the way. But like, for some reason, my camera just likes to pop down to my crotch and see what's going on every now and then. And then
Freaky Tech Reviews, man.
You ain't kidding, dude. But anyways, shoot, what was I saying? She basically said that if a company wants to send me something, I am immediately going to sell out and not give my true opinion. And I'm like, why would you say that? You know?
Right.
But also, the way that I combat that is very specific. I saw one YouTuber do this, and I'd love to give them credit, but I know they're not the first, and I can't remember who it is. But in my videos now, to combat this, I say in the description below is both an affiliate link and a non-affiliate link. That way you don't have to feel financially forced to support the channel if you want the product, right? And I've had a lot of people that seem to really appreciate that, and I've got a lot of comments that say, hey, because you included a non-affiliate link, I used your affiliate link because I want to support you. And I think for me, it sends the message that, like, I may like this and I may recommend it, but I'm not asking you to help me make money on it, you know? And I think that's one way to fight back on that. But yeah, her video just got me a little heated, because I'm like, I have a strong sense of morals when it comes to making sure that my audience has an informed choice when they purchase something. And to say that all of that is invalidated just simply because they sent it to me, like, what creator that has less than 50,000 subs has the budget to keep buying every single product to review? There's a lot of stuff that I review that's $800 to $1,000. I can't afford that. It's the only way for me to bring that cool tech to my audience. And anyways, I'll get heated if I start talking about that more.
You know, and one of my biggest things for this is that bias of any kind is a bias, right? No matter if it's for or against. And her statements, you know, it doesn't take into the account of experience, right? Like, and just moral integrity, right? Like I always think, I've always said this, people have the ability to lie and steal and cheat, or they don't. You know what I mean? Like, people don't naturally just become a thief and things like that. They already have that ability to do that. They don't think it's wrong, right? And so they're okay with doing that. So, like, whether or not you get a free product for a review doesn't mean you're going to lie. You either have the ability to do that already, like, I'm going to just pump this thing up because I want to get more views and I want to get more, you know, products and things, or you don't think like that. You say, hey, I want to build the audience. I want a authentic audience that trusts my opinion. Like, it's either or. Like, I've never seen somebody like swing hard left after deciding, like, okay, I'm gonna lie at first and then I'm gonna become honest later, or I'm gonna be honest now and then I'm gonna lie to grow my like, I've never seen that. It's either like you can tell from the beginning like what that person is about if you're paying attention, right, to the way that they carry
with
themselves.
her, I will never watch a review from her again and assume, and if she mentions that, I'll know, okay, you're probably lying about this if you recommend it because you said that. Like, you know. Anyways, and so for me, I had a comment stuck with me. I think I've shared this with you before. I had a comment stuck with me a long time ago that I didn't like the comment because it said that if you don't have anything negative to say about it, then it's not a review, it's a commercial. And at first it really pissed me off. And I think it bothered me because I know that that's not, like, I don't ever do that. but it made me realize I do need to make sure that my videos are structured in a way that shows objective thinking. Whether or
Yeah,
not
yeah,
I agree with the point, like the dislikes and the negativity around it, I still need to address it. And so
yeah.
now I try to make sure that I have pros and cons for that reason.
Mm-hmm. And we did talk about that, and like I agree with it to an extent, but I don't always feel like it's necessary, um, because I always focus on persona and use case, right? And so I always like, and I talked about that,
Yeah.
like the action cams and stuff like that. Like, yeah, if and I use this example pretty often because it's easy to understand.
Hmm.
I don't like iPhone cameras because of the small sensors and things like that, but if it's the only thing I have with me and it's in my pocket, right? And I need to record something,
Right.
I'm not going to in that moment be like, oh, this camera's trash because the sensor's so small and it's going to give me grainy footage. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take it out because it's the only camera I have on me. It
Right.
shoots in 4K 60. I'm going to take it out and I'm going to record the scenario and I'm going to use it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the best product at the time, right? And so with that being said, if you need a mobile camera, if you if you need something that can shoot 460, if you need like the iPhone camera is great for that.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean it's better than the FX30 that I'm shooting on or the
Right.
A7S3, which is my. It doesn't mean any of those things, right? And so that's why
Hmm.
I don't always feel the need to find a con if I'm talking about a specific product designed for a specific niche and
Sure.
I'm covering it within that niche.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't like some people will just talk about things that they are negative, they are downsides, but they have nothing to do with the actual intended audience for the product, just so they can be objective. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in
Right.
itself, to me, that's also false. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're giving the people a reason to pause on the purchase or pause on the thought if it's not really a valid thing for them to pause on. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where I draw the line on that.
Yeah. I can see that for
Yeah.
sure. I just had someone join the TikTok live whose username just looks like boobs. Wait, can you see that?
No, because I don't have it pulled up on my phone, and my phone's way over there, so
Oh, okay.
it's not
Okay.
close enough for me to see.
Their user. I don't know how they did that, but it makes me laugh. But I didn't mean to sidetrack us right there. Um, Man, one thing I want to talk about, and I'm really curious about what people watching this think, is augmented reality versus physical,
Hmm.
like I guess monitors. That's what I'm going to start with. I recently did a review on checking out these AR. It's not even the AR glasses; it's the software that you use them with. So it's just a laptop with a USB-C cable attached to X-Real glasses, and then the Spacetop software is desktop in front of you. It's basically a 100-inch screen that you can move further and
Yep.
closer away from you. And I also reviewed the base case a couple of weeks ago. These are, I mean, I guess plugs, sure, but
Plug them.
which is travel monitors that are in a carry-on suitcase, basically, that you can bring with you. And it's interesting because I've heard some concerns about, like, do you think that AR could completely replace physical monitors? So I wanted to see I have some thoughts on this, but I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
For me, I think for some people yes, and for some people no. Right, and the reason I say that is because I think there is definitely a group of early, what do they call them, early adopters,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
that always want to try that newest technology. And not only will they try it, they go out of their way for it to be successful
Mm-hmm.
because they feel like it's the wave, right? Like
Right.
it's the next wave. Let me jump on this thing early so that I can have, I can understand it, know how to use it, be the first one to use it, have my opinion, right? Be seen as someone that's forward thinking. And then there are those other ones that just need traditional things that they're used to. They don't like change. They will not use something new because it's going to throw off their workflow, and they're going to need those traditional monitors. And then I
Mm-hmm.
think there's some people in the middle that can be persuaded to try it. They might try it and it's not the thing, or they might try it and they be like, oh yeah, I can get down with this. So I think there's two major groups. One is just not going to try it. That's that foolery. I'm not messing with that. And then
Right.
there's oh my God, that's cool. I got to jump on it. And there's that small group in the middle. Um, I watched your video, right?
Thank you.
I watched it, and having the ability to have all of those screens up, putting them where you need them, expanding them the way that you need to, etc. on the go. Like I think we
Mm-hmm.
jumping on a plane and going somewhere, or you're in the car traveling somewhere, or you're going out to the coffee shop, right, or something like that. The privacy of being able to have those screens up without people being able to see them
Yeah.
was another really cool feature. And like, you don't have to like, kind of keep your shoulder up because you got some PII on the screen or something like that. I thought that was super cool. And I would be one of those people to be like, man, let me see what this is about. Let me put these glasses on and use it. At the end of the day, though, I'm going to come back home and sit at my desk and use my screens,
Right.
because I have the setup, I'm used to the workflow. I'm not going to be against the new circumstance, but I'm not going to use it more than I use the main setup. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's
Right.
kind of my thoughts on that.
I agree. I completely agree. I think like in this scenario, the problem is that you can't really just try it out. It's a $900 buy-in for this specifically, and it's
I mean,
not
I
to.
can go to your house, but yeah, you're right.
I mean, a bit of a drive, but yeah, I know what you mean. You know what I mean? Like if you know someone that has it, you
Yeah.
can try it. But I think that's the problem. Everyone has a monitor. Everyone knows what it's like to sit in front of your desk. And so to look at the buy-in to do something like that is already a major drawback, but also like, my thoughts are that it's the same reason that VR is not the king of gaming. VR has a dedicated audience. It has people that really, really like it. It will never beat traditional controller or mouse and keyboard gaming,
Right.
because it's like motion sickness. That's definitely part of it, but also just like the having to put something on your head and take away your environment around you to a certain extent. Even though I did have decent peripheral vision of what's around me, still, it's like eventually those peripherals will be replaced with better glasses that I can then see more of my screens.
Yeah.
And so it got me thinking about like, will AR actually ever really become the meta in like workplaces and things like that? And I don't think it can. When you have like so much remote work with video, like everyone gets on video chats now, right? Like you and I both do Teams meetings or Zoom meetings every day, all day, and you can't have that whenever you have a pair of glasses on to look at your workspace. Apple's tried to do that with their Vision Pro, where they replicate your face with a 3D image. Like that's just, I don't think that's ever going to take off because of like uncanny valley type stuff. But anyways, look like you're about to say something.
I think, it's interesting you said that, like work and Zoom. That's one of the few places where I feel like it would push, and not in its current state. I think its current state is uncomfortable after long usage and things like that. If they could make those be the size of a pair of regular glasses like you have on right now, I think at that point it would be something that people could do every day at work.
Well, these are. I don't have them in front of me, but these are the size of a pair of sunglasses.
You know what I mean? Like, think about this. Right now, we all, a lot of us work from home, and like we worry about our backgrounds, and we have the fake images and different things like that. But if you could just pick up something, you've already programmed the environment around you and stuff like that. You sit down at the table with your folks, with your colleagues and things like that, like the way that this thing is projected to be 10 years from now. I think at that point, people are more apt to want to use it because of how co-located we are in those, not in the small companies, but like in the large companies, somewhere, where we were, place like that, you're meeting people in the West Coast, the East Coast, etc. Yeah, man, put the glasses on, and now all you guys are in the room at the same time, and you can jump.
But being able to see each other's faces, that's because there's, I mean, to this day, there's corporate trainings based on how do you read body language to make sure that you're not pissing someone off and that type of stuff. So it's like, I just think the technology is too far from that to be a worry anytime soon.
One thing and that's why I said 10 years from now, 15 years from now, because just like AI, where it's as worse as it's going to get right now, right? It's only going to improve incrementally as technology improves day by day, right? And even Gen AI, talking about adding that to some of these things, like for facial recognition and things like that, like because like the technology in the PSVR 2. Right, can read where your eyes are pointing and things like that, and it automatically does. So it's like it's not long before facial impressions or like the LiDAR that they use on the front of an Apple iPad, something like that, right, to disseminate how deep your face is, your dimples and stuff like that. Having the ability to do that with a pair of glasses eventually will allow you the facial expressions,
right?
That's needed, right? And so that's why I'm saying, like, today, no. 10 years from now, I think 10 years from now it possibly could be there.
Yeah, let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on augmented reality. How it will it ever actually replace physical technology? I am in the no boat. I just don't think that it can, because by the time it can give you the peripheral vision that you need, you have lost your entire environment around you. No one else can look at your screen with you. The face stuff, we'll see how that progresses. It's cool, but here's the thing. I reviewed that. I still have all of that stuff. Haven't touched it since the review, and I still look at my physical monitors.
And also keep in mind, this is generational technology we talk about, right? And so, whereas we grew up without that technology, my child spends about 5 hours a day on his VR, right? And so, and you know, he Ty, by the time he walks in the door and finishes his homework, we joke about it, he's already online. You can already hear him playing Gorilla Tag and stuff like that on his Oculus, right? So
yeah,
us probably not, bro. But like that next generation is growing up with this technology, so it's commonplace and it's normal, right? And so
starting
for
to feel old
them,
now.
I mean, I'm older than you, right? But it's generational technology. You know what I'm saying? Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't imagine walking around with an iPad, 12-inch screen touch, walking around with it until it became a thing, and then people adopted that. So now a lot of people have iPads, right? But before it was there, nobody thought about it. And that's why I'm saying today, no. But 10 years from now, when my children are kind of like the entry-level workers and stuff like that, they spend all day in the Oculus and all of that stuff now anyway, right?
Yeah,
they don't watch regular television. It's YouTube. And so a lot of things will be different 10 years from now, for sure.
Yeah, very true. So you mentioned AI a second ago. I want to talk about our experiences with paid ChatGPT versus free. I really underestimated the difference. I didn't I'd always heard that you get more out of it. It's more accurate. It does deeper dives on searches, but it is a different beast entirely whenever you have the paid version of one of these AI services. Cause I was looking at Grok. I wasn't going to consider DeepSeek just cause it's directly tied to China. I wanted US based, China. So I started, anyways, I started looking, at the paid version of ChatGPT, and I think we subscribed. It's like $20 a month. At the same time, we both did it, and wow, it is significant. Like, how would you explain the difference between the free and paid version?
First I'll make a comment that I was actually surprised that I tried the paid version before you, because you use it a lot more, and you've shared different ways and upgraded different ways that I use it.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised that I tried it first. But what I can say is the regular version, the first things that come up are the limitations to it, how often you can use it, how much you can use it in a day,
right,
and how fast it moves once you're using it, right? Yep. All of that is better. It's unlimited use. It moves a lot faster, etc.
Yeah.
Beyond that, though, the conversation is more conversational. So like when I say I'm writing this script, here are my ideas, this is what I'm thinking through, the response is more conversational. The response is more like I'm talking to somebody that is a mentor and helping me work through that script. They're giving me different ideas, think about it this way, try it this way, here's examples, blah, 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 blah. And I'm literally having a conversation when writing a script. Like I'll say, like, I'm working on a script right now, just real world example, my camera journey, what I started with and what I'm using now in response to the current camera space and what people are talking about. I put in, this is the cameras that I have. This is what I started with. This is what people's talking about. Here's the links. Here's my thoughts on that, blah, blah, blah. And it's just coming up with, if you want to be conversational, here's some examples. If you want to be more spec focused, here's some examples. If you want to be, it's like all these different things that it's just popping out. And I'm just reading through it like, I didn't even think about that. And I guess where I'm going with this is the paid version actually searches versus regurgitates. It goes and finds information. You can change the different ChatGPT engines, for lack of better terms, between like 4.0 and 3.0 and different things like that, because there's different logic built into them.
Right.
So you can change back and forth. It gives you project folders and stuff like that. So you
project folders is nice because you can save that tonality to that folder, and it doesn't affect the rest of your searches. Because I use one just for YouTube scripts, and it's not that it's creating my videos and I'm not putting my own thoughts into it. It's just like, let me just as I'm checking out a product for the first time, type up, okay, I like this. Okay, I don't like this. I like this. I don't like this. I just have like a blurb of here's my likes and dislikes. And then I put the product manual link on there because all product manuals have URLs now. And I put that into ChatGPT and I said, I need a script. Here's my likes and dislikes. Cut out all the salesy crap, just get straight to the point, and it just formulates it into something that I can easily read. And it's taken the load off of script writing so much, and because I'm just not good off the cusp of, I'm bad about saying I repeat myself a lot, so I prefer a script method because it just makes my videos faster and flow better. But have you used the video AI function and chatted with it yet?
I have not yet.
So this is wild.
Yeah, I haven't yet. I started like how it said something about do you want to use it or something. I clicked yes and moved it to the next thing, but I didn't actually do anything with it. So tell me about it because I am interested.
Yeah, this is really wild because you can talk to it like a person, and it will. And the only thing it can't do is talk to you. It only answers, right? Like you like I told it, I was like, can you remind me when I need to do something? And said, no, I can only respond whenever you engage with me.
Got it.
Which is an important distinction because ChatGPT will only ever know what you tell it.
Yep. Real quick before you move on from that, it's also a quick distinction between artificial intelligence and a large language model. Right. Because that's a lot of thing that people fear about these tools is that it's this robot personality that can do whatever it wants, and has it's not artificial intelligence. It doesn't think for itself. It only responds to the prompts you give it.
That is until ChatGPT 5. Word on the street is that ChatGPT 5 is going to be a true artificial intelligence because we're on 4.5 right now. We'll see once we get there, but like this next update is supposed to be a big one because of that reason. So anyways, that aside, so I use the video function.
I'm intrigued. It's really hard for me to move forward, but go ahead.
Well, we can chat about it, but I want to share my experience with the video side because basically you allowed access to your mic and camera, and like I used it in a couple different ways. Like for instance, I took it to my wife has a garden. I took it up to one of the plants where the leaves had some discoloration and the roots looked a little weird, or the stems did. And I used the video function, and as I was moving it around, I was like, I'm having trouble figuring out what's wrong with this plant, what's it needs. And it's like, okay, it looks like this type of plant. Looks like there's a little bit of yellowing and discoloration on the leaves, which might mean that it's either not getting properly watered, like consistent watering, or it could mean that it's lacking phosphorus and something else in the soil that would lead to this specific plant having this discoloration. And I was like, holy crap. And then I was like, I need gutters in my house, but I'm having issues with so much water coming off of a certain point. And so I held the video up that, and I was like, I need help figuring out how to exactly put gutters up here to handle the type of volume. And I was telling it, like, you can see where like it comes off of the roof. It comes out with much more water than it normally would off of like a roof like this. Anyways, hard to explain unless I show you a picture, but basically it was like, yep, I can see what you mean based off of the way that much surface area of your roof has two channels that focus into one point. So here's how you need to allow for this with a deeper gutter system that's also a little bit wider. Here's where you would place your downspouts to accommodate this much water coming down. And I was just like, this is insane, dude. Just because like
I want to try that.
It's like imagine if you were like, I'm having an issue with my car and you had an expert level mechanic that had all the knowledge in the world with the contextual history of automobiles since they began in the late 1800s. Like they're diagnosing and understanding in real time what you're doing, but it's that much of an expert in every single area that you could potentially point that camera. And it's seeing what you're seeing because you're using your phone's camera. It is wild. Like for instance, I'm thinking about redoing my studio, and as you know, I have zero storage, right? I'm gonna take that camera. I'm gonna say, hey, based on what you're seeing in my studio, you hear about my lack of storage all the time, because we don't have basements in Texas and it sucks, or like good attic space because it gets too hot. But I'm gonna use it to say, hey, how can I make this more efficient so that it works for me? And it will diagnose that and tell you, and it's just that to me, like the free version wants to please you with very simplistic answers. The paid version is a true, like, let me give you the legitimate detail and like cut out all the extra fluff crap that you don't need to hear because it's just trying to give you a big answer and actually tell you what you need to know. And I ended up doing a self-reflection exercise with it. I said, hey, I've been using you for 2 years because even though I just started paying for it, it knows how I've used it for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason I chose ChatGPT, because I've already got a history with it. And I said, hey, where are my weaknesses and the loopholes in my life? And it spit out 10 different areas of
Jesus.
like, well, based on everything you've
Immediate
ever told.
feedback.
And I looked at it and I was like, damn, chill, bro. Like, you ain't got to go for the throat. But
You suck at this.
Wanted, a couple of times it mentioned, based on everything that I'm constantly asking, it says, it seems like you're probably going through some burnout based on what I'm seeing right now. Would you like me to address on how to start working on your burnout? Because I'm having that with, as you know, with YouTube. It's just YouTube. I'm struggling to keep up with demand right now. And so I started working on a burnout plan with it. And I said, well, let me walk me through what an average day looks like for you. And I did voice to text instead of typing it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, at this time of the day, I'm doing this time I'm doing this is this. And it said, well, let's create a structured plan that's going to take baby steps to get you back to where you need to be. So here's phase 1 for your first week. Just try to make sure you're getting enough sleep, going to bed on time. Here's phase 2 of what we're going to do. Here's phase 3 of how we get you to this point and the why behind it. And I mean, I could go on and on just with the interactions that I've had with ChatGPT, and every day I underestimate what it can do.
Yeah.
And the paid version is just, it's not ChatGPT on steroids. It's a completely different animal.
It's like the difference between when somebody's giving you free consultation versus paid consultation is what it is. It's literally like if somebody was like, you walked up to a big YouTuber and you're like, hey man, give me, what should I do? I'm a new YouTuber. You're like, hey man, do this, get this, right? But then you pay for an hour of their time, and now it's like, let's write out this whole plan and tell me what you're doing and blah blah blah.
I would take it a step further. It's like asking Mr. Beast, hey, what's one tip you could give me to improve my content, versus, hey, here's my YouTube channel login, you take it from here. Like that's how big of a difference it is. The
reality, like being like facetious. This is what potentially AR glasses and things like that could be in the future once people find that much value in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we didn't, like, you wouldn't have known about this value within ChatGPT or even like using a Gen AI or a large language model over a year ago. But now that you've really adopted it, really learned how useful it is, that's kind of what I was saying earlier about those glasses, AR and meetings and stuff like that.
That's
in the
fair.
Future potential.
And I'm curious if I want people to leave a comment and let me know in the chat, what are your thoughts on AI? Because there's a lot of hesitancy around it.
There is.
And the one thing that I will say is that I understand being hesitant about AI. I totally do. If you don't adopt it now, you're going to be left behind significantly. Agreed. And it's like, there's a lot of different examples. Like right now it's the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution. If you didn't start adopting machine manufacturing in the early 1900s as a company, and you tried to stick with human labor, you went out of business. And that's what's going to happen with AI right now. If you don't learn how to incorporate it and use it as an assistant, it's not going to take over. But right. I mean, it could. Shit, I don't know. But if you learn to adapt it into your lifestyle and essentially become a cyborg is what you're doing, because you already carry your phone with you. So we're essentially cyborgs if you think about it, because everyone's got a phone. And then you incorporate a literal expert in every aspect of your day. It is unlimited what you can do. It really, really is.
I think regards to this topic, we did ourselves a disservice immediately calling it AI, because again, it's in its current state not artificial intelligence.
It's not self-aware.
Which is why I'm really interested and curious on what version 5 is going to look like. I didn't know that. It's more along the lines of like advanced computing and or like data analytics, for lack of better terms, you know what I mean? And that's really what a large language model is. It's being able to grab that data and bring it back to you as quickly as possible and present it in a way that's understandable and quickly absorbed, versus someone thinking for themselves. To the point earlier, like, you have to interact with it in order for you to get a response. It's not just going to see you walk in the room and be like, hey, Corey, how you doing today? Like, remember we talked about this yesterday, that like, that's artificial intelligence, right? That's a different level. That's not what any of this is. And so I do think that it's a rabbit hole though, as far as like capabilities. And so now I'm super interested in hearing like what 5 is. So tell me a little bit more about that. Cause I'm going to Google, I have no, I wasn't ready for that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's expected to be released some point this year. let's see.
Ooh.
Trying to find a good synopsis of how to explain what it could be. And here's the thing: it's all speculative because we
Yeah,
don't
of
actually
course.
know just yet. It's going to be a single model, so you don't have to switch back and forth between different GPTs to utilize it. It is an all-in-one thing. The I think I think what we're closing in on, and this, I don't know if this is five specifically. I think what we're closing in on is the moment AI or ChatGPT and systems like this can start developing itself and improving itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I think it's going to become either a problem or, well, probably just a problem. Like when
Yeah.
ChatGPT can start improving itself, what stops it? You know,
Yeah.
because most, like all AIs right now have a certain amount of bias and a certain amount of safety rails built into it by the people that created it. But once it can start creating itself, you can't stop it because you
Yeah.
can't outthink it. It's faster than you, it's smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
It will never be able to stop. And that's honestly, I don't know that we're going to be able. I think we're too far down the rabbit hole to prevent that.
Yeah.
I don't know fully. Like, there's a whole like presentation that aired on April 13th about in June GPT-5 and what all it's going to have.
I'm gonna watch this thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned something. One of the really great features of ChatGPT, especially the paid version, and you hinted and hit on this a second ago when you talked about everything you're telling me. It seems like you're burned out. Is that it starts to learn your traits,
Hmm.
and based on your prompts, it starts to understand who you are. Right. This goes into like direct marketing kind of, and some of those systems that are in place in order to give you a product, and you're like, I was just talking about that the other day and it showed up on my on my cell
Hmm.
phone and my Facebook feed, right? And it's because consumer behavior is just that. It's behavior. It's based on the way that we walk, I mean the way that we think when we're making purchases, and the websites that we visit and things like that. And then there's the whole IP addresses connected to the same network and stuff like that, and so you're always connected. So next time you and I talk, it's probably going to show us cannons when we go back and look at Facebook or something like that, because we talked
Right.
about it. Our IPs are connected right now and all that good stuff.
Right.
So next time we get on Facebook, we're probably going to see advertisements for the PowerShot, and anybody watching this might see advertisements for the PowerShot, right? But to your point, when it becomes self-aware, Google has all those years of search terms that we've done for, like, I'm 42 years old. Google's been around for how many years?
Hmm.
So all the search terms that I've done in the Google search over the years is basically my DNA, right? It's my internet presence. And so once AI, or artificial intelligence as it is, self-aware, it can then go and find all of that, and it will know me more than anybody else in this world, because it didn't know
The
every
real
interest,
you.
the real me, every interest, everything that I've watched, everything that I've researched, everything that I've tried to learn from it, the
Right.
music that I listened to, like anything that was connected at the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, and that's why self-aware AI is so dangerous, because it's going to know us more than we know ourselves. Blind versus the known self, right, in psychology. And
Right.
so that's why it's so dangerous. And I agree with you. I think at this point, because people want to create it, I think we're too far going down that rabbit hole. And that's why I think it's been a disservice to label the current stuff AI, because it's not quite AI, but we are getting there,
Yeah.
right? We are getting
Well,
close to that.
I actually think artificial intelligence is a good term for it, but because when it becomes self-aware, it is just going to be straight intelligence. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because it's
Well,
computer based, like it essentially becomes a deity almost in a weird
mm-hmm,
way because of how unlimited power it has, and
mm-hmm.
or it can have. And for instance, like think back to that early 2000s movie with Tom Cruise, Minority Report, where
Yeah.
they were solving
Yeah.
crimes before they happened. That stuff based on like internet search history and all this stuff can happen. I mean,
Oh, agreed.
let us know in the comments down below
If you've seen the movie
if
first.
AI analyzed your Google search history for the last 20 to 30 years, are you going to go to jail or not? like I'm curious.
Or therapy.
I mean, yeah, how much, like, what percentage would you be worried about AI discovering about your search history? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, there's a lot of
Yeah,
people that'd be nervous.
the only reason I still consider it artificial is because it's not naturally occurring. It's man made, right? And so, but I agree, man. I think we're right there. Like Marquez said this a year ago. We've said this several times. Like we said it earlier in the podcast. It's only as worse and as dumb, right, for lack of better terms, as it's going to ever be.
Yeah.
From this point, every single day, it just exponentially gets smarter and smarter and smarter. I guess smarter isn't the right term. I would say more efficient until later when it does have an actual intelligence.
So let's go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we think that if we have been visited by extraterrestrial life, is it another planet's form of AI that had advanced to what we're working towards? That because like if you think about how rapid an intelligence like that can develop stuff, way faster than humans can, right? If you look at like, I mean, dude, we just launched the space program and could barely start. Okay, we just learned how to fly 100 years ago, or a little bit more than that, right?
Yeah.
And now look what we're at. We're breaking sonic barriers. We're having constant space travel, and that's just based on humans being able to expedite the process of knowledge and learning. Imagine what this thing can do, and then can it start developing things that can learn how to fold time and space and travel to other parts and identify planets that could have potential life on it? Is that what extraterrestrial life is? It's just another civilization's AI that's ahead of us.
I watched. I'm gonna click on this. Hopefully, there's no sound. I'm gonna mute it as fast as I can. But I watched a video last night. I think I sent it to you. It was 11 minutes long, saying it was about an ancient civilization in India.
Yes, and I haven't watched it yet. Yes, I want to.
So I'm not gonna spoil it, but it is. I'm trying to see if I can find the name of the place because I need to watch because it was brand new to me. It's if you're familiar with Petra, which is in Jordan. It's carved into the side of a mountain, and the outside of it is extremely intricate, and we don't know who created it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
This place in India is like 10 times magnificent of that. And Petra is like on my list, right, of places I want to go and see in real life.
Go back.
No, it's not. It's not Göbekli Tepe. It's not. It's a place I never heard of.
No, because that's in Turkey. Okay.
Yeah, that's Turkey. Yeah,
okay.
I've never heard of this place before. It's in India. And I'm going to watch it again so that I can become familiar with it and learn more about it. This place is absolutely beautiful. And the reason I bring that up is because we still, in 2025, have no understanding of how some of these places were created. And something like this that is carved...
Or even how old they are.
Something like this that is carved down into the rock and made into complete city, right? As beautiful as this thing is still standing in 2025. We have no idea. So when you think about that, did technology get so advanced that it wiped out the human race?
So this is something I've thought a lot about, because if you look at like the Younger Dryas theory, and I think we're going to be getting into some really interesting topics now, because we were talking about cameras, but this is what people show up to Ctrl+Alt+Discuss for. If you look at like the Younger Dryas theory, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but basically it's saying that the human population went down to 1,000 total people and repopulated about 12,000 years ago. There was basically almost a mass extinction of the human race. And if you think about, if like, let's say nuclear fallout happened, who's going to survive? Like if you watch these shows like The Walking Dead and The Last of Us and all that stuff, it is the hardest, meanest, baddest people that are going to do whatever it takes to survive. And they're not going to be nice about it. Right. And that's what we descend from. And I think that's why a lot of like, and like, if you think about, was civilization more, like, or I guess less problematic, less combative before those events happened? And then the very meanest people survived, and that's why people are the way that we are today. And like people have such volatile attitudes and go crazy, and mental health's a concern, all this stuff, because that's what we descended from, are absolute crazy people that are savages. I wonder what society was like before that. And there's even things where they found, like, they think like the pyramids of Giza, which are theorized to be a little over 4,000 years old, could be as old as 12,000 years old, because the outer coating that was on them has worn away, right? They had another coating, and they're actually older than we think. And
conduit,
and it's like there's a lot of things like that where we'll never know. We'll never know. And I don't think the government will ever tell us. I mean, there's literally tunnels inside of the Sphinx that no one is allowed to go through that we know are there, and like they won't allow us to explore and see the secrets of.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's theories that there are tunnels and hidden. Not temple's not the right word, but at Mount Rushmore, right? And so that's why it became a national monument, so that you couldn't go to it, right? In different areas. And so
that was in Richie Rich.
No, that was in Richie Rich, but national treasure.
What? No, it was Richie Rich where they had the bunker behind the Mount
Oh, well, they
Rushmore.
touched on it in National Treasure too with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, maybe that was. I love that movie.
I
That's
do too. I do too. But I mean, just because of my religion, I have to say that the Bible and the flood goes to the small amount of people and stuff like that. But that's interesting too because there's so many different beliefs that people have across this world, right? And everybody has the right to their own opinions, beliefs, and all those different things. But it's very interesting that every culture has a similar story around it, right? I mean, but going back to who is it with the cineform? Is it the tablets, the clay tablets? With the
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
it's the oldest living. See, now I'm drawing a blank and it's on live, so it's the worst way. It's the worst time to do it.
The cuneiform, ancient
Cuneiform.
Near East clay tablets were used as a writing medium, especially for writing in cuneiform. Well, that's the style in the Bronze and Iron Age.
It's okay. But anyway, those that are in the if people are still watching, because we're getting into some really nerdy stuff, if they're still watching, they'll know what I'm talking about. The oldest living or the oldest recorded civilization that had these tablets, and they had pictures of people called them angels. They weren't. People thought they were aliens, right? Because it looked like they had the stars and they had the planet and they had the other planets rotating around it. If you
Right.
know in the comments, let us know in the comment section. We've covered a lot of different topics, but it's interesting. Like that civilization, also, which is the oldest recorded civilization, had like theory of space and things like that. And it's like, how did they do that back then when we think that we're the smartest civilization that ever lived, right?
Right.
And you and I have joked around. I talked about Pangea and the how there's a basically a pyramid on every continent in the ocean and every different forms. Aztec have a different form, and India has a different forms, and China, and all this different stuff. But they're across the entire world, right? And so it's
Well,
just super, super curious. Yeah.
on the pyramid thing, I've heard people talk about that. Like, how does every continent have a pyramid? Well, it's also just the easiest way to stack shit. Like, if you think about it,
in a but in a
You know what I
perfect
mean?
in a perfect aligned angle, like aligned to the constellation, though.
okay, yes, that for sure is strange. But when it comes to the design of a pyramid, I'm not going to get caught up on that because it's just the most stable way to.
I mean, you could say that an arc is, but it's there's the scientific thought that order can't come out of chaos, right? Like you just stacking stuff on top of it. What's the odds that it just aligns with the constellations,
Yeah.
perfectly,
Right.
unless that's just,
I was real bummed to find out recently that the cylinders they found under the pyramids were not like what we thought they were. Because they were like, oh my gosh, we found these giant, massive pillars that look like electrical generator type things under the pyramids, and then they're saying, oh well, the lidar might be wrong. The problem is they might have actually found that, and then they're going to start saying the lidar was wrong because they don't want that stuff escaping.
time to cover it up.
Yeah, if it has to be covered up, then I want to know like that. Then and I think the problem is that for instance, like the Vatican Church, right? It covers up so much stuff in the archives, and I think there's enough stuff that let's simplify this argument. If aliens showed up all of a sudden, would it cause a mass exodus from religion, right? Because there's so many people based on religious texts that believe in a single deity that created man and in that image. And then if you have another civilization that shows up, does it take away everyone's beliefs all of a sudden? And that's financially tied to that. That's
Agree.
tied to that.
Agree.
You know what I mean?
Agree, 100%. And it's it's interesting, and I think we're probably getting time to end the podcast before we get too out there. But I have always believed, even within my religion, which is Christianity, that it's arrogant to think that we are the only things created in the universe.
Yeah.
When the universe is so vast.
You think God didn't have a couple practice sessions on some other planets?
I believe he's all powerful. And if I do believe that, then how do I believe that he only stopped to create me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but then scientifically, if you look at all of the galaxies, like we're one galaxy and the multitudes, right? Like it's just pure numbers, just that we can't be the only thing. Right?
In our observable universe, we can see more stars than there are grains of sand on the planet Earth. and every star has planets revolving around it, and we
Yep.
can see planets that, based on thermal imaging or whatever it is, that like with the James Webb Telescope,
Yep.
they can tell there's water on these planets just like
Yep.
Earth. And there's this ring of life around every star where it's just far enough away where it's not frozen, but it's not boiling. It's
Not
just
boiling.
this ring of perfect
Mm-hmm.
life. And we're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be there forever because our sun is growing in size. And eventually,
Yep.
when our sun becomes a red giant, the edge of where our current sun is will be
Yep.
past Jupiter. So
Yep.
we have a
Yep.
finite amount of time. I mean, we don't have to
Yep.
worry about it in our lifetime, but
Right.
like, and then that's just within the visible universe, and we don't know what's beyond
Mm-hmm.
that. And to think that I think the people have trouble thinking about extraterrestrial life or anything outside of our own existence because infinity is impossible to comprehend.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
that's the problem. You don't
Yeah.
understand what a billion is or a trillion is. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that's the largest problem with it. And honestly, I think a large reason why people refuse to think that there's anything else out there is just because it's terrifying to think that we're not the only ones, but it's also terrifying to think that we are. Imagine if, like,
Either
if you think
or,
about
yeah.
the Fermi paradox and how,
Mhm.
like, I think the Fermi paradox, if I'm not mistaken, is the one where we might, like, other life might not have found us, because if you look at how long it's taken us to evolve into
To
the
where we
humanoid
are.
forms that
Mhm.
we are right now and how old we think the universe is, we might be the most advanced form of life in the
Mhm.
universe if the
Mhm.
universe is as old as we think it is, based on how long our own evolution has taken.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and I think that, like, I don't buy that. I think there's easily other
Yeah.
forms of life out there, even if it's bacteria. Something else
Yeah,
exists.
that's what I was going to say. Just like what you just said, like the other fallacy in that thought process is that our life form is the only form of life,
Yeah.
right? Like we always look at these planets like, can it sustain human life? But we're not really thinking about other forms of life that could exist. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like even within our own planet, there are species that would exist without the things that we need to live.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that have lasted through different extinction periods, et cetera, on this planet, from once to the next. And so it's like that's the thing that I always think as well. Like it's arrogant to think that human life is the only life that is significant, right? Because when you think about life in the grand scheme of things, life is life, right? Even
Yeah.
the grass blade, it goes yellow when it dies. But like, so thinking about that in the terms of space, there probably is other forms of life. It's just whether or not there's other forms that we would deem, humanoid or,
Right.
Homo sapien, et cetera, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet there's some alien baddies out there. I bet there are. But if you've powered through this podcast and you've made
Yeah.
it this far into it, you have got to do us a favor by letting us know in the comments what is a conspiracy theory that Cozy and I should explore and talk about on the next episode, because we enjoy talking about tech, but I think we just have this burning desire to talk about the crazy, weird stuff. We also want to talk about sports a little bit. Like, I would like for this to have a little bit more of a general feel to it, but it's always going to have home for tech and camera gear and stuff like that. But let us know what conspiracy theories, or not even conspiracy theories, just what do you think about, life outside of us, or the age of the planet and ancient civilizations? Let us know and we'll talk about it, because I could talk about this all day. We didn't even touch on vampires.
Oh my God. Yeah. Let's save that one for another. Let's talk about that in our next episode.
Okay.
That's a cool topic.
Well,
I would love to talk about
I almost said something earlier, because you said every civilization has a similar build with their pyramids and has a similar, like, religious form factor, and the exact same thing with vampires. Every ancient civilization references vampires, and so we got to talk about that.
We got to. So hey, it's been cool. I don't even know how long we've been talking at this point.
Hour and a half.
So it's been our average time. So thanks for tuning in. Cool jumping on TikTok live with you for the first time. So again, let us know in the comment section. What do you think? What did you like about today's? Is there anything you want us to go more deep on? And then if there was anything you disliked today, right? That's engagement too. Like that's good feedback for us to know as well. But as always, tune into the next one. Looking forward to chatting with you next time, brother. And looking forward to all you guys tuning in. Maybe we'll do this live as well as the TikTok live. Made it stop some editing for us, right? But
it would help. It would help. I would love that.
But we'll see you all in the next one. So until next time, stay cozy.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Peace.